Chester and Gus by Cammie McGovern. How to Say Yes, Part 2. Gus doesn't spend the night in the hospital the way he did after his last seizure. This time, Sarah and Mark bring him home before the sky gets dark. Gus looks okay, but he's moving slower, like his legs hurt or maybe his head. Something must hurt because he's walking right next to Sarah and letting her put her arm around his shoulder. "Right over there, sweetheart," she says. "Let's get you to the sofa." He bumps into her and then bumps into the sofa, which is not like him. I'm scared that maybe seizures make people not act like themselves. Sarah sits him down and kisses the top of his head. "We'll get you up to bed in a minute, but first I'm going to get you some water. Are you okay here?" Gus nods. "Okay," he says. Now I'm really scared. He just answered her question, which means he's really not acting like himself. Sarah stops walking and turns back to look at him. "You're okay?" she repeats. He doesn't look up. "Okay," he says again and smiles. She looks at Mark. Even though he's repeating what she just said, this feels different. She's asking him a question. He's answering her. It feels very different. She brings him his water and kneels in front of him. "Are you ready for bed? The doctor said this medicine will make you feel sleepy." "Feel sleepy," he says. His eyes flutter a little like he's already half asleep. I'm almost sure we're all thinking the same thing. It's like he's so tired his brain can't cooperate in its usual confusing way. It can't stop him from talking. I can tell Sarah wants to keep him up a little longer and find out more. "Can we ask you this question again, babe?" Gus's head bobs a little, almost like he's nodding. "Do you want to stop having teachers come to the house? Would you rather go back to school?" Mark steps up behind her and touches her shoulder. "Don't, Sarah. He's too tired for this. Let's put him to bed and talk about this in the morning." She turns to Mark and snaps. "No, this is our chance." She goes closer to Gus and kneels on the floor in front of him. "Gus, can you stay awake a little longer?" His eyes open again. He looks right at his mom and smiles. She smiles back. I've never seen him do this before. It's nice. "Can you tell us if you want to go back to school?" "Tell her yes," I say. I know he can hear me because he looks around the room to see where I am and where this voice is coming from. When he finally sees me, he smiles and nods. "Tell her yes. Tell her the only problem at school was Ed." He nods again. "Gus," Sarah says, "can you tell us whether you want to go back to school, yes or no?" Sarah, Mark is behind her. "He can do this, Mark," she snaps again. "I see it in his eyes. He knows what I'm asking. He wants to tell me." I move closer. I don't say anything. I wonder if he's not answering because he thinks his mother can hear me. Maybe he thinks the answer is already out there and that she already knows about Ed because I've said it so often. For Gus to speak, I have to be quiet and not say anything at all. He opens his mouth. "Chester," he says. Sarah's hand goes up to her mouth. It's the first time she's heard him say my name. It's not a repeat of something she said. It's his own thoughts coming out of his mouth. "Wants school." Sarah gasps and hugs Mark because she doesn't want to scare Gus by hugging him right now. Then she kneels in front of him. "And do you want that too? Do you want to go to school with Chester?" He nods first so we know his answer. "Yes," he says softly. "See, Mama." Now Sarah's crying and can't stop herself from hugging him. "I'm right here, sweetheart." She spins around to Mark. "Did you hear that?" she says. She sounds breathless. Mark is right behind her, hugging them both. They're all so happy. "Your mama's right here," Sarah's saying. Really crying now. "I'm right here." I don't think it matters that he's thinking about a different mama. I'm the only one who knows the mama he loves at school, but it doesn't matter. We've finally done it. We've told them enough. We've told them what they needed to know. How to make a plan. All morning long, Sarah's on the phone. As far as I can tell, the plan is to send Gus back to school, but only if I can stay with him all day as a seizure alert dog. "Yes, Chester can predict Gus's seizures," Sarah tells Mr. McGregor on the phone. "We had his teacher here as a witness, so it won't be hard to prove." So far, she's talked to a doctor and another specialist. She's making lists and nodding as people on the other end of the phone tell her what she needs to do. It's been a few days since his seizure, and Gus hasn't been talkative like he was the night he came home from the hospital, but it's okay. He knows the teachers won't be coming to the house anymore. He knows we'll be going back to school soon. He and I haven't talked privately about any of this, but I think if it's a choice, If Gus only has the patience to talk silently to me or out loud to his parents, it's better for him to talk to his parents. They need to hear what he has to say. They can do more to help him. Since I've come to live with Gus, his biggest change was talking to his parents about school, but there have been other changes too. Some are so small they're hard to notice, like looking at Amelia and trying to smile, like visiting Mom every day. He needs to do more of these things so that other people actually see them. He will, I think. I'll be there to help him, and he will. We just have to wait for the school to get organized. Sarah keeps talking about getting protocols in place and paperwork cleared up. While she's busy making arrangements, Gus and I are free to watch TV, which is nice. In the middle of one of our favorite Martha Speaks episodes, I hear the doorbell, which hasn't rung once since the teacher stopped coming to the house. It worries me that maybe they've changed their minds and decided to come back. But no, I go to the front door, and there is Penny talking to Sarah. Even though it's confusing to see her again, it's impossible for me not to say hello. I jump around and lick her hand and bring her a shoe to say hi.
"Oh, sweet dog, I'm happy to see you too,"
Penny says, bending down and hugging my neck.
So happy."
Even though Penny just got here, it sounds like she and Sarah are in the middle of a conversation. Like maybe they were talking on the phone earlier and I didn't realize it.
"How long do you think you need to teach him all this?" Sarah asked her. "It's hard to say. Chester's always been such a fast learner, but what do you want him to be doing exactly?"
Sarah pulls out a notebook. She's made a list like she always does. She starts reading. In the event of a seizure, Chester will need to move Gus away from stairs and windows. He should stay nearby to help him sit down or lie down. He should press the emergency alert button Gus will be wearing around his neck. After that, if Gus is safe and the seizure is over, he should leave Gus and get help from an adult. He should go first to the teacher, then to the nurse. I look at Penny. I can learn all this quickly. You remember how smart I am.
"Maybe a month?"
Penny says. Sarah frowns.
"Would it really take that long? We want Gus back in school as soon as possible, but we don't want him there without Chester. The school has agreed if he masters seizure response skills with a certified trainer. I know this is a lot to ask, but we were hoping it might take a week or maybe 2 at the outside."
Penny thinks about this for a moment.
"The only way I could do this is if I brought Chester home with me and worked with him there. Training like this needs to be done intensively, about 8 hours a day."
Sarah looks confused. Doesn't he need Gus to be with Gus for this?
"No, it's better if he isn't, actually. The point is to generalize Chester's responses to as many different situations as possible. The person won't change, but the places will."
Suddenly, I feel worried. Penny's talking too fast. She looks nervous, the way she looked in front of the group at the farm.
I guess you know best, but I think you'd want to do that kind of practice with Gus."
"Yes," I tell Penny. "I should do it with Gus." She pats her skirt.
"To be honest, it's such hard, repetitious work. I'd hate to put Gus through that. I'd rather take Chester home with me, do the hard part myself, and bring him back. I'll train him ready as a seizure response dog." "I don't know. Gus has been very attached to him. Wouldn't you be willing to come to the house and work with him here so we could still spend his evenings with us?"
Penny closes her eyes as if she's giving this idea some thought.
"It's not a good idea. These are challenging skills and they won't be easy to learn. As smart as Chester is, I'd like to have his attention as focused on me as possible."
"Oh, gosh." Sarah smiles down at me and picks up one of my ears to rub.
"We'll miss you so much, Chess. I hate to let you go for even a week."
I look up to her. "It's not a good idea," I say with my eyes. "Something bad might happen to Gus if I leave for a week." Sarah smiles at me. Sometimes I think she almost hears me, but then ignores it, because if she heard a dog talking, she'd be crazy.
"Aren't we being silly? Look at Chester's face. It's like we both want to cry."
She bends down and whispers in my ear,
"It'll be okay, sweetheart. When we get you back, you and Gus can go to school together again."
When she stands up, she's all business again.
"Okay, I'll pack up his things. Move, Chess. I want you to have your bed at Penny's house."
I move off my bed. She piles my bowls, puts some food in a bag.
"I'd like Gus to come down and say goodbye before you go." "I don't have a lot of time," Penny says. Instead of seeming less nervous, she seems more nervous now. She is looking at the door, pressing her hand to her head. "This won't take long, I promise." Sarah goes into the TV room to get Gus. Even though we're alone in the room, Penny still won't look at me. In her heart, she must know that this isn't a good idea. I go close and nudge her hand. "It's me," I try to say. "If you watch me with this family, you'll see this is where I belong." She pets me a little, but won't look in my eyes. Sarah walks back in with Gus beside her. Okay, Gus, Chester's going away with his old friend Penny for a little while. We're all going to miss him, so we have to say goodbye before he goes. Can you say goodbye, Chester? Tell her no, I say to Gus. Tell her Chester doesn't want to go. He hears me. I see it in the way his expression changes. His whole face turns. Say no, I repeat slowly. Tell her Chester doesn't want to go. His body starts to rock. He goes up on his toes. I inhale but don't smell a seizure coming. This is my chance. He opens his mouth. Nis, he says softly. So softly, even Sarah doesn't hear. Louder, I say. Time for us to get going, Penny says. Gus makes her more nervous, I can tell. I think Penny's afraid that maybe she's like Gus in some ways. Penny clips on my leash. Gus doesn't say anything. She moves us towards the door. Wait, Sarah says. I turn around and go back to Sarah as far as the leash will let me. Don't you need his vest? You can't practice in public places without it, right? Oh, yes, Penny says. Thank you. That was silly of me. Sarah pulls it off the hook in the mudroom where it usually hangs. A minute later, we're gone. Penny jogs me out to the car and opens the front passenger side where I always used to sit to ride. I thought I missed it, but now I'm not sure. I don't want to leave Gus. I don't want to wonder what's happening back here and have no way of knowing. In the car, Penny starts talking the minute we pulled out of the driveway. She didn't mention your reading program once. Not once. You've lived here for what, 4 months? And this whole entire time, the only thing she's thought about is herself and her family. Gus this, Gus that. The whole time I was there. Oh, it makes me so angry. Is she trying to say she didn't have time to work with you for 20 minutes a day on your reading? That was all I asked for. What a waste. It's not a waste to think about Gus. That's my job. She's been helping me do my job. I'll tell you something, Chess. The first thing we're going to do when we get home is work on the flashcards and test your vocabulary. I want to see how much you've regressed living with those people. I don't know what regress means. It's not a word in my vocabulary. No, I try to tell her. We promised to work on seizure response skills. I only have a week to learn them, remember? She doesn't answer me, of course. Even if she could hear me, I don't think she would. She's not good at back and forth conversations like this. Penny's house. Penny's house looks the same, but feels different. It's sadder this time, and lonelier. The TV is too loud. Even Penny's voice seems louder. Right after we walk in the door, she throws my vest in the corner and pulls out the old word flashcards. Even though I haven't worked on them this whole time, I try to remember what they say so we can move on. She can teach me the jobs I'll need to know. Yes, she says when I get my 4th word right. You've retained it all, you amazing dog. I can't wait to tell my new friends. I joined an online group for people doing serious research on canine-human communication. They all agree teaching your dog to read is the most practical first step in talking to your dog. Really? I look at her. My heart feels heavy. There's one woman who's posted videos of her dog reading 26 different commands. Some people have accused her of doing off-camera cueing, but I believe her. I look at how quickly you've learned what those words, and I know some dogs are just extraordinarily smart. Some people have never met a dog like that, so they're skeptics, but I'm not. The more Penny talks about this, the more scared I feel. I wonder when she's going to teach me what I need to know about responding to seizures. She hasn't mentioned it once since we left Gus's house. I feel hopeful for a few minutes when she says, now we're going to take a break from reading to do something else. Great, I say, and start toward the closet where she put my vest. We're going to work on getting you to point to the cards, I say. I'm going to lay down 2 cards and get you to touch one of them with your nose, like this, see? So he touches one of the cards with her own nose. I think about Gus with his home teachers touching their flashcards. He touched a lot of them and never told me anything. I wonder if I could learn to read enough words to say to Penny, take me back. Gus needs me. I don't think Penny will be teaching me those words because she doesn't want to hear them. She lays out 2 cards. They look different on the floor. I can't tell what they say. Chester, point to down, please. They both look like down. I don't know what to do, so I lie down. No, Chester, sit, please. I sit again. Point to down, she says, and does something she's never done before. She puts her hand on the back of my head and pushes my nose towards one of the cards. Yes, she says when my nose hits the card hard enough to hurt. You pointed to down. She lets my head go and switches the cards. Okay, can you point to down now? Her eyes go from me to the card she wants me to choose. It's easy to tell which one it is. I don't want to point to it, though. My nose hurts from what she just did. I'm not reading. I don't want to learn tricks where I pretend like I am. I don't see how that will help Gus. Do it by yourself, Chester. I know you can. Point to down. I look at her, not at the cards. I tell her with my eyes, don't make me do this. I want her to understand we're both better than this. She raised me to believe that serving my person was the most important thing I could do with my life. I'm not your person, she told me many times. You'll know who your person is the minute you meet them. That's how it usually works. I must have looked worried because after she said that, she reached over and hugged me. Oh, Chester, I promise it'll happen to you. You're my smartest, best dog yet. Everyone will love you. Now I've learned I don't need everyone to love me. I just need one person, and I found him. She doesn't understand that Gus is my person. He has been since the first time he saw me and screamed, and I thought, I can help this boy be less afraid. I have helped him, I think. He is less afraid. He's talking a little more. He's told his mom and dad he wants to go back to school, but he can't go if I'm not with him. And Penny isn't teaching me what I'll need to know for that. Point down, Chester, she says again. I don't move. I hold my head back so she can't push it again. Chester, are you listening to me? I do something I've never done in one of our training sessions before. I turn around. Chester? I walk away. My heart is beating hard. I've never disobeyed a command in my life. Chester, Penny gasps. What are you doing? I think about her father's heart attack. I don't want her to have one. I look over my shoulder to see if her face is red or sweaty. 2 heart attack signs I learned from a commercial. Except for her expression, which is horrified, Penny's face looks fine. I keep walking. Chester, stop! I don't. I go over to the door and sit down beside my vest that lies on the floor. If I wait here all day without moving, maybe she'll understand what I'm trying to tell her, I think. But she doesn't. She thinks I've lost all my training in the time I spent living with Gus and his family. I don't understand, she keeps saying. For the rest of the day, we go outside and work on the old basic commands that I learned when I first came to her house. I guess she wants to see if I remember them. I sit, I stay, I heal. What about the new things I need to learn? I ask her. What about the emergency alert button and fetching medications? Teach me those, I beg her, like you promised Sarah. But in the 2 hours we work outside, I don't learn anything that'll help me with Gus. Tower puzzles. I've been with Penny for 2 days now, and she hasn't taught me anything about responding to a seizure. Instead, she's setting up towers and mazes made out of cardboard boxes. She says they'll help me increase the flexibility of my thinking. Once the neurological pathways become flexible, your brain is more capable of joint communication. Remember, Chess, look to me for help. I'll cue you on how to open the doors and get the treats. That's how you'll get to be a more interactive thinker. I don't want to be interactive, I tell her. I want to go home to Gus. This morning, she set up a circular cardboard tower with 3 doors. Each door has a string attached to it. Judging by the way she looks at the strings, I'm pretty sure I'm meant to pull one of them. So here's the point, Chester. Monkeys can learn that if you pull the right string, a door will flap open with your treat. Some canine experts think that dogs' weakest area is problem solving. They say you have to be taught everything by rote because you don't understand cause and effect. I don't think you're right. They're right. I think you can figure this out if you've got enough motivation. That's why I've got your favorite treat ready to go. She pops open a Tupperware, releasing a wonderful smell I remember. Beef brisket. My nose lifts, my mouth waters. I used to work long afternoons for Penny's beef brisket. Those are happy memories. Those were the days when she still talked about the important jobs I do for my person. I try to imagine what she'll tell Sarah when she takes me back, and I can't do any of the things Sarah asked me to learn. Suddenly, a terrible thought occurs to me. She's not worried about what she'll say to Sarah because she's not planning to take me back. I look around the living room where Penny and I have always spent most of our time. I have everything I need here. My bed, my food dishes. As she puts the brisket treat into the cardboard tower, I look in the pantry and my stomach does a turn. She's got 2 shelves of dog food cans and a full container of kibble. Why did she buy so much dog food if she expects me to stay for only a week? My heart begins to race. Dogs might have a hard time learning cause and effect, but we don't have any trouble understanding food and what it means. Penny's planning to keep me here with her. She doesn't think working with Gus is as important as me learning to read and talk by pointing to cards. Realizing this makes me so nervous, I don't know what to do. Maybe I can sit by the door and refuse to do anything or go anywhere except back in the car. Maybe if I concentrate on these reading lessons, I can learn the only words I want to know. Take me home. Gus can't go back to school without me. I have to be there with him, not only to press his button and move him away from stairs if he has a seizure, but to steer him away from Ed and towards other people like Mama and Amelia. After a morning of working on flashcards in the string-draped castle, which I'll never understand, we take a break for lunch in our old favorite spot, on the sofa in front of the TV. I used to love sitting here, finding out about people in the world outside this house by the TV shows we watched. I learned all about criminals and the detectives who catch them. I learned that it's people you don't expect who turn out to be criminals, like Penny, who is stealing me and committing a crime and eating lunch as if everything is normal. Come on up on the sofa, Chester. You know that's okay. She pats the seat beside her. Did those people not let you up on their furniture? Were they like that? She rolls her eyes as if this is just another reason not to like them. I don't get up on the sofa. I sit nearby, but I don't look at Penny. What's wrong, Chess? You're in such a mood this morning. Aren't you happy to be back home? I look at her and look away. I don't understand you. Remember when you didn't want to go with those people at all? When I had to force you and tell you everything would be okay? Wait a minute, I think. I do remember that. But how does she? I move closer and try to catch her eye. Could you hear what I was thinking back then? I ask. I wait for an answer. Nothing. I move to another spot where she can see my face. I want to learn my job for Gus, I say. I want to go back and be with him. I watch her carefully. I don't think she hears my voice. But there's a thought in her head that she doesn't like. She looks down and shakes her head. I move closer so my face is right under hers. You shouldn't keep Chester here. It's not right. It makes you a criminal. I'm trying to sound like her own brain talking to her. I'm not sure if it's working. She shakes her head again and picks up the TV remote to raise the volume. Penny's mom. We have to go see my mother this afternoon, Penny tells me the next morning. I don't want to go any more than you do, but we don't really have a choice, I'm afraid. This is interesting, I think. We've been to visit her mother a few times before. She's very old and lives in a nursing home where they take care of people who have problems remembering important things, like their daughter's name. Whenever we go, Penny has to start the visit by saying, I'm Penny, your youngest, remember? Sometimes she has to remind her again while we're there. I'm not Olivia, Mom. I'm Penny. Olivia is my sister, and she lives in Florida now. I always like visiting Penny's mother because most of the people who live there are in wheelchairs and are happy to pet any dog who walks by. I know these visits are harder for Penny, though. Usually she cries on the drive home, and sometimes she even cries while we're there. Once driving home, she told me, that woman we just visited wasn't my mother. That isn't the woman I grew up with. At first I was confused, and then I understood. She was her mother. She just changed a lot. She doesn't understand anything. She can barely talk. That's not the mom I remember. I've never met the mom she remembered, but the woman I met understood a lot more than Penny thought. I could tell by her face and the way she looked me right in the eyes. I knew what she was trying to ask me. Does she always talk like this much? Is it annoying to you too? Now I wonder if she might have been saying those things, and I didn't understand back then that some people can hear me and I can hear them. I know I shouldn't get my hopes up in the last 3 days. Penny hasn't once mentioned Gus or his family. Twice I've heard Sarah's voice leaving messages on the answering machine. At night, I've been lying awake on my old bed that still smells like their home, trying to think of ways to get back home to Gus and Sarah and Mark. Running away isn't a good option. It takes a few different highways and a long time to drive here. Highways are roads where cars drive faster than anyone can run. Even with my nose, I'm too far away to find them by smell. I've thought about sneaking out with one of the few visitors who come to Penny's house, the mailman who comes every day, or maybe the garbage collector. But I'm pretty sure if they found me in their truck, they'd bring me back here. As smart as Penny thinks I am, I can't think of an answer for this. But visiting her mother has possibilities. It means we'll be in public again. It's a small chance, but maybe I'll see Sarah, Mark, or Gus. If I do, I'll run to them and I won't leave their side. I know this is a very small chance, though. Maybe I'll see Miss Winger and Mr. McGregor, who will say, that dog belongs back at her school. Maybe they will scare Penny the way people with regular jobs and families seem to. We hardly talk at all on the drive over. She's nervous about seeing her mother, I can tell. She looks like she's about to start crying just thinking about it, which makes me feel bad. The hallways are lined with older people in wheelchairs on their way to their activities. The last time we came, I was in activity, part of a pet visiting day with 2 other dogs and a cat who shed white fur onto every lap she sat in. Maybe Penny is remembering this too, because as she opens the door, she says, I hope we don't see Snowball today. Penny's mother looks the same as I remember. She's wearing clothes but lying on top of a made-up bed. 2 pink slippers sit on the floor beside her. When we walk in, she opens her eyes. She looks at Penny first and then at me. I'm the one she recognizes first. "You're back," she says. She can't remember my name. I can tell, but she remembers me. "That's right, Mom," Penny says, smiling. "You remember Chester. I've got him back now. He's living with me again. Isn't that great?" Her mother stares right at me. This is my chance. "I don't belong with Penny," I say. "I belong to another family. I need to get back to them." Her head turns a little. I think she hears me, but she's trying to figure out where the voice is coming from. "Can you tell Penny to take me back to Gus's house?" Her eyes, which have been wandering the room looking for the source of my voice, settle back on me. It's me, talking. "Chester, I need your help." This is hard to manage. Penny is talking at the same time, going on about how right it feels to have me home again, how excited her online friends are to meet me and see all the things I can do. As she talks, her mother looks confused. She shakes her head. "No," she says. "He shouldn't be with you." Yes, I'm so happy. I go over to the bed and lick her hand. "Thank you. I shouldn't be with her." Penny says, "No, Mom, it's fine. See, he's wearing his vest. He can come into the building with me. Therapy dogs are allowed in nursing homes." "No, tell her Gus needs me to go back to school. Tell her I have a job to do." Her eyes are wandering again. Penny can't stop talking. She tells her mother how special I am, how I can read words, how big my vocabulary is. "I really believe he's going to be famous soon, and we'll be watching him on TV, Mom. He's going to be the world's first talking dog." "Not really. I can't talk except to a few people like you and Gus. That's why he needs me. Without me, he doesn't stand other people very well because he can't talk either. But together, we do okay." It's funny, I think, when someone understands what you're saying. It's such a relief, it's hard to stop talking. Penny must feel the same way because she can't stop talking either. "I have some people who want to see videos of Chester. My plan is to get him reading about 20 words, and then I'll send along a tape of what he can do. I don't want to do it too early, why he might still look like a dog doing parlor tricks, you know." "What about Gus?" her mother says. Penny's eyes widen. She hasn't mentioned Gus's name once since we've been here. What did you say, Mom?" "He belongs to Gus." "How do you know that? Has someone been in here talking to you?" Her mother lifts one of her fingers and points it at me. Now Penny's really scared. "What are you talking about, Mom?" "He says Gus needs him to go back to school. I don't know why, though. Do you know what he's talking about?" How to speak. Penny doesn't speak the whole drive home. There are 2 messages on the answering machine from Sarah, asking Penny to please call her as soon as possible. I'm scared this means something has happened to Gus, that maybe he's back in the hospital already. I don't know what Penny's thinking. She storms around the kitchen looking for something. When she knocks over the cardboard tower, she kicks it across the room like she doesn't care anymore about all the time she spent making it. I don't know if this will help, but I go to the pile of new flashcards we've been working on. I can't read any of them, but I remember one of the new ones because it has a picture on it, a mouth with lips. I pick it up and carry it over to her. She stops being angry for a second, takes it out of my mouth. "Speak," she says. She starts to really cry. Not the little tears she cried in the car. These are big sobs. I'm scared she might choke or stop breathing. It looks like she's having a broken heart attack. I don't want Penny to have a broken heart and die. I just want to go back to my family and do my job with Gus. I move a little closer. She's crumpled up the flashcard, so now neither one of us can read it. "It'll be okay," I tell her. "Take deep breaths." I'm surprised. She takes a deep breath. "That's good," I say. She takes another. It's almost like she can hear me somewhere in the back of her mind. Or maybe in her heart she can hear me. She just doesn't listen most of the time because she doesn't like what I have to say. "It will all be okay if you take me back to Gus. I will work hard for him and be the best service dog you ever trained. You'll be proud of me. You'll see." She can hear some of this, I'm almost sure. Or at least she can feel it. That's better than being famous. She takes another deep breath. I've got to keep going. I can't stop now. I don't want to be famous like the dog in the video who never gets to eat his bacon. I can't believe it. She stopped crying for long enough to smile for a second. We've watched that video a lot. I've never laughed at it the way Penny does. I always wonder if that poor dog is embarrassed now. How could he not be? Famous for wanting bacon so much that he gets a little whiny. It could happen to any of us. It's funny to some people. Penny stops smiling. She holds out her hand for me to come over and put my head in her lap. "I'm just going to miss you so much," she says. She's crying again a little. "I feel like I need you too, but maybe he needs you more." I lick her face, which always makes her laugh. I don't know if she's heard me or not. All I know is that she's understood enough to know what she needs to do. How to go home. That afternoon, Penny starts teaching me seizure response protocol. So eager to learn that it doesn't take long. Watching videos helps, except they're all golden retrievers, which scares me a little. The only golden retrievers I've met have always seemed to be so sure of themselves. Once I saw a golden urinate on another dog's foot. That isn't a sight any dog can easily forget. After Penny breaks down the tasks I'll need to do when Gus has another seizure, it's not hard to imagine doing this job. When I smell a seizure coming, I need to get him away from staircases and windows. I should have him lie down on the floor so he's less likely to hurt himself falling. After a seizure, I need to press a button that he'll wear around his neck to call for help. If he's not wearing the button or I can't get to it, I need to make sure he's safe and go for help myself. I haven't done the button part, but I've done all the other things. It surprises me realizing this because so far Gus's seizures have always happened when something else stressful is going on. First the fire alarm, then the fight with Eleanor. Maybe if I remember these times when my instincts were good, I can build up my confidence. Penny talks a lot about having confidence. It means believing you can do something even if you haven't done it before and you aren't sure. Penny says her problems for most of her life have been not having enough confidence in herself. I don't want you to have that same problem too, Chester. Maybe that's why I've worked so hard to show you how smart you are. I want you to believe in yourself the way I do. Now that we're finally doing the work that will get me back home to Gus, it's easier for me to like Penny again. You should have confidence too, I tell her. Look at the great job you've done with all your dogs. Look at the great job you did with me. I don't know if she can hear me the way Gus can, and her mother could. I think my voice sounds like her own thoughts in her head. Sometimes I look at the wonderful dogs I've trained. I look at you, Chester, and I think I should have more confidence. It teaches me something. Gus is my person because he can hear me. But I can still help other people I love by sitting near them and thinking positive thoughts. That will never be my main job, but it can be my side job. I think a lot of dogs do this as a side job. It's an important one, too. Penny is very quiet before she takes me back to Gus. I'm scared that she'll cry, so I don't say anything. I sit as still as possible and try not to think about anything either. I watch Penny take slow trips out to the car with all my things, my bed, my bowls, my sack of food. It's sad, but watching her empty her house of dog things, I get an idea. She should get her own dog. She shouldn't let Wendy or anyone else decide whether she's good enough to have a dog. She should go to one of those places we always see advertised on TV where thin dogs look out from behind cages with eyes that say, "Will you please bring me home?" Whenever we see one of those commercials, Penny always says, "I can't stand these ads. I can't stand looking at those sweet, sad faces on TV." Once she said she couldn't adopt one of them because too many sad things had already happened to them. Now she walks back into the house after her last trip. I'm sitting by the door waiting for her. "You should adopt your own dog from a shelter," I say, looking into her eyes. "A lot of sad things have happened to me, but you still love me. You should find another dog to keep. You love dogs, and you shouldn't have to always give away the things you love." I don't know if she hears me. If she hears, I don't know if she'll follow my suggestion. I think about all the months we lived together. She has a lot of reasons to say no. It wouldn't be a good idea. She used to talk a lot about neighboring dogs she didn't like. Poodles are too high-strung, she'd say. Border collies are too hyper, hurting anything that moves. Goldens think they're better than anyone else. Penny has many low opinions of other dogs, but the lowest of all is for mutts. "You have to watch out for them," she once told me. "You never know what you're getting." In the car driving to Gus's house, she's very quiet. I take a risk and say, "You might be wrong about the mutts on TV. Yes, you don't know what you're getting, but that's the exciting part. I didn't know what I was getting when I first met Gus. He was scared of me, and I was scared of him too. Love is when you get to know each other well enough not to be scared anymore." I don't know if Penny can hear me. Her eyes on the road, she's driving slowly because she doesn't want to go where we're going to go. Eventually we do, and Sarah opens the door the minute Penny's car pulls into the driveway. "We're so happy to see you again," she says to me, not Penny. She comes over to my door, opens it because she can't wait anymore. I bounce around and around like a puppy so she knows I'm happy too. It's wonderful to be home. That night in Gus's room, after Sarah turns out the light and leaves us alone, Gus talks to me for the first time since I've been back. "Did you go somewhere? It seems like I haven't seen you for a while." Think about how frantic I felt and how much I missed him. I wonder if I should be hurt that he hardly knows I was gone. No, I think this is my job. He's learning how to notice people and animals enough to miss them. I'm teaching him that. I tell him I wasn't far away, and now I'm back. I won't do that again, I promise. I don't like being away. I missed you. I wait for him to say the same thing to me, but he doesn't. For a long time, he doesn't say anything at all, and then just as I'm drifting off, he surprises me. You missed something. Oh, what? One bird flew away. There used to be 4, now there's 3. I sit up a little. I thought he'd forgotten about the bird nests we shared before we started watching TV. When you spend your day looking out the window, the stories are a little slower and less exciting, but they're there if you look long enough. They're there. Gus taught me that. Did it die? He asks me now. Probably, I think to myself. I remember there was a little one who didn't look very strong. No, I say. I think it went back to school to see all of its friends. Gus sits up in bed, confused. That was a little joke. Birds don't go to school. He lies back down. I don't want to go to school either. Think about the parts you liked, like Mama and her dishwasher, and Amelia. Who? Amelia, the girl who comes over to sit with us. She needs a friend, I think. She gets sad and frustrated sometimes. Like you a little bit. I do? Yes, sometimes. Okay, I guess I do. A real surprise. The next morning I wake up to a real surprise. A brand new orange vest with words written on it. I can't read them, of course, but Sarah reads them for me. Official service dog. Please don't pet me. I'm working right now. Even though it's not the friendliest message in the world, I love the vest more than any present I've ever gotten, including Drubby, my favorite chew toy, who I accidentally chewed up a long time ago. I'll never chew this. At school, I wonder if people will recognize me wearing my new vest, but I'm surprised. Everyone does recognize me. Most of them come over to pet me or hug me. Then they read my vest and say, Oh, I'm sorry, Gus. I shouldn't interrupt Chester, should I? I like that they talk to Gus about this. He doesn't answer for now, but maybe someday he will. Maybe he'll say, It's okay, or not now. We can work on different possibilities. For now, I won't try to feed him answers or force him to talk the way I did before. People have to decide these things for themselves. The best thing I can do is help when he needs me, and when he doesn't, I can sit near him thinking positive thoughts. I'm pretty sure this helps. Before Penny left her house yesterday, she told Sarah that she was thinking about visiting the animal shelter to see if there were any dogs she liked. That's a wonderful idea, Sarah said. She sounded very happy, like Penny seemed more normal to her now, saying something like this instead of talking too fast about how smart I am and how I can read. It is a more normal thing to say. Dogs can't really read, and we can't use flashcards to talk to people we love, mostly because if we really love them and they love us, we don't need to. We can just sit near each other and listen to our thoughts. Some of them are mine and some of them are his. That's how it works when you find your person. Unfortunately, when we walk into Miss Winger's classroom, the first person we see is Ed. What's he doing here? Ed asks when he sees me. I thought he wasn't allowed anymore. Seeing him is hard for Gus. This is the first time since something happened in the tunnel that gave Gus 2 black eyes. Walk around him, I say. Gus doesn't hear me. Part of the problem is that Ed is interesting to him. Ed is like the chainsaw guy in the woods. Gus is scared, but Gus likes feeling scared sometimes. I get a crazy idea. Maybe Gus can scare him. Maybe Gus can do something that will frighten Ed enough for him to leave Gus alone after this. Remember the zombies, I say? Remember how you scared them away? I know Gus hears me because he holds up his arms in an X and chops the air in front of him. Nis, he shouts. Chop, 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 chop. Nis, nis, chop, chop. He looks and sounds weird, which is perfect. Ed takes a step back. The other kids giggle nervously. Ed backs really far away. You're a strange one, Gus, Ed says. He's worried the other kids are laughing at him. I can tell. Then I realize they are laughing at him, not at Gus. With someone who plays strange, scary tricks on other kids, you have to fight back in strange ways. The other kids look at Gus like he's brilliant, chopping the air with his cross-stick arms. Afterwards, Amelia comes over to us. I'm so glad you're back, she says to me, but she's careful to look at Gus while she talks. Gus doesn't look at her, but he does do something interesting. He takes one of his hands and covers the part on my vest that says, Please don't pet me, I'm working. He's trying to say something. He wants to tell her it's okay. Come over whenever you want. That's nice, I say, and then I stop myself from saying any more. I don't want to confuse him. He found his own way to talk to her, which means my job is to sit near him and think positive thoughts. You're doing great, I think, but don't say. She's a nice girl, and maybe someday you can invite her to our house and show her our nest. She'd like that, I think. We all would.